Suzanne Nielsen is our teacher, and she will be joining us this evening momentarily. We're just waiting for her. She was having some difficulties connecting. This is our 39th Tutorial Tuesday, and we got to 39 before we had technical difficulties and had to reschedule or had to shift a little bit. So we're thankful for that. There will be 2 $20 gift cards coming up later in the evening. I'll be asking questions for those, and we are just going to give her one more moment to see if she gets on tonight. We are doing the Stitch School Mitts, which I had, let me just pull the link for. It is a pattern that is available on Ravelry, and it takes 1 skein of worsted weight yarn. And oops, I just need to pull up the link again. I had it up, but we were, okay, let me go back into here. So this is the pattern that we'll be covering tonight. That's the Stitch School Mitts. Hurrah, she's here. By Suzanne Nielsen. Okay, so let me find her and make her co-host and get her online. Excellent. Yay. Yay. Okay. I have gone ahead and done the introduction.
Great.
And so we are ready for whatever you have for us.
All right. Well, I have a lot tonight, so I am so sorry that I just am a little frazzled, but we're going to get started. So tonight we're doing the Stitch School Mitts, and normally I cover this in like 2 2-hour classes, and we're going to try and get everything in to this 30 minutes. So it's a lot. But remember that we record these, so you can always go back and get it. And just a second, I got to grab my bag.
And also a lot of the techniques that we'll be using tonight, we have covered in other Tutorial Tuesdays. For instance, we're going to do a wrap cast on, we're going to do an I-cord bind off. So a lot of those things are in other of our Tutorial Tuesdays, and I am going to grab the YouTube link where you can find all of our past Tutorial Tuesdays anytime, whenever you want to review anything.
All right, I am ready. Sorry.
I can keep vamping if you want.
Pardon me? Okay, I just gotta get all of this. So we start with, like Laura said, we start with the wrap on cast on, and the wrap on cast on is done. Sorry. All right, is done in a way that you're actually knitting the mitts flat. And then we join them in the round, and I'll show you how to do that. But we do the wrap on cast on just to get a provisional cast on. And I'll switch over to my camera.
I was gonna say this was the one technique I figured I could demonstrate if I needed to, but
oh yeah, you could do this one too. So when we do the wrap on cast on, we're going to start with, we do need circular needles for this project. So to get a pair of circular needles, and let's see, my camera is turned a little funny. Let's see if we can turn it like this. All right. So we'll take a slip knot. And I do say in the pattern to leave like a 20-inch tail, and that is so that you can use it to do the Kitchener stitch at the end. That will be more clear why, but you take your slip knot and place it on the bottom needle. And then we're going to take it from behind and wrap over the top around both needles. So here your slip knot is not going to count at all. So that's nothing. And then for the size small mitts, it's 33 stitches that we're going to wrap around. So we're literally just wrapping it around both needles until we have that 33 stitches. I think I'm going to skip and not do quite that many today, just so that we can get going, but then I'll switch over to another project. So here is 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 8. Let's just I'm just going to do 21 for now. So after you do the wrap on cast on, the stitches that are on this bottom needle are just going to stay there and hang out. And the top ones, we're going to pull the bottom needle out, and these stitches are just going to hang out on this cable for the whole time until we're ready to connect the mitts. And then we just knit across. We just treat these as stitches and work across the stitches on the needle. So, gosh, I'm flustered here, but there's an I-cord edge. So that is a 2-stitch, I believe it's 2 stitches. Now I'm doubting myself, or 3 stitches. So you just knit 3 stitches, and then you start into the pattern, which is knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, and then knit 2. And gosh, it might be that we, and then I think we place a marker here and then knit across the stitches. And I will pull up my pattern right now and make sure, but this is, if I'm not doing it exactly right, then we can follow the pattern here.
I can get that for you.
All right, and I'll switch over. But now we have this, our slip knot is hanging out on the stitch. It's going to get taken out later, so that's okay. We don't worry about it at this point, but it just can hang out. And then we turn our work and work back across. And these stitches still remain on the needle. For the I-cord edging, we just slip the stitches with the yarn in front. And then here we're going to purl back, and I'm going to switch over and show you a mitt that's farther along in a second here, so that you can kind of see what's going on a little bit better.
Just so you know, the row that Suzanne just showed you, it sort of approximates row 2. Normally she has 2 setup rows where you kind of place your markers. And then, so what she showed you is the lace repeat that technically is row 2.
Okay, so I just showed.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to, I just wanted to clarify which row we were demonstrating, so they know that there are actually 2. There's a setup row and row 1 before this. So,
yes.
So you'll
and then
do,
for I-cord edging again, you just bring the yarn to the front and slip the stitches. When you're on the back side, when you're on the front of the work, those 3 edge stitches just get knit. Okay, I'm going to switch over now to the a mitt that's farther along so that you can kind of see. So in these mitts, I'm a little bit farther along here. And actually what I did was, instead of, just to show you what you can do, if you find it really annoying to be connected, you can use a different needle in the bottom and just let your stitches hang out on this needle and keep working on the stitches up here. So that's what I did in this, and I hid my darning needle here so that I would have it, unlike last time. But what I wanted to show you here, excuse me, is just so you can see more what's happening. You have an I-cord edge on the bottom. You have, like, I have heard this called Quaker ribbing. Have you heard it called anything else? It's where you have like a stockinette section and then a reverse stockinette section, stockinette, reverse stockinette. So it does kind of rib in that it, it contracts, but it's done, it's done the opposite direction of most ribbing. It's not with knit 2 purl 2. And then on this side, you have another I-cord edge. You have a little bit of a lace section, and then you have like a band of stockinette here that kind of divides these 2 halves. And what I'll do is show you one of the mitts here. So this is a completed one. I think I made this one a little shorter too, but we have an I-cord edge at both sides. And then we're gonna be joining this together. But as you're knitting this, there's a couple tricks to remember where you are. And the first trick is in the lace section. So it switches, there's a couple different rows, and sometimes you'll have 3 knit two togethers and yarn overs, and sometimes you'll only have 2 knit two togethers and 2 yarn overs. You're always going to end up with the same amount of stitches, so you should always be able to count your stitches. It's very common to like miss a yarn over or something, but you can catch it if you remember to count your stitches. I also have you place a marker here so that it helps you be able to count your stitches. It also helps. So here you should always have 13 stitches, I think it is. And here you have a different number of stitches depending on which size you're making. But you can always make your mitts shorter or longer, depending. You can always, it'd be easy to add stitches in this section. All right, stop me if there's any questions that come up, Laura, but I'm kind of flying through this. Sorry, guys.
No, you're good.
So it's knit 3 stitches for the I-cord edging. And then here's where we can kind of see what's going on. You can tell how the knitting is always slanting in this direction. So you always want to have knit 2 together. Like you would always want to knit this stitch together with the yarn over stitch. So that's how I know that I have my edge stitch 3 stitches here. So now here I can tell I need to knit these 2 stitches together because that would make this column flow in with that. So I know I'm on a row that has knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, oops, knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit 2 together with the yarn over. So this is another knit 2 together.
So this is technically another row 2.
Yeah, yarn over. And then we have this column of just knitting 2. Now this is the other tricky part is a lot of times, some of the time you're going to have to purl in this section, but most of the time when you're in this section, when you're on the right side or the wrong side, you're going to be knitting. So if you just think to yourself, okay, most of the time I'm going to knit. But if I see like a lonely little purl row, then you're going to give it another purler. But right now I don't, because I see like 3 purl rows right here. They look like they've been purled, as opposed to this stockinette section. So since I see a bunch of purl, I'm going to knit. And I'll show you what I mean on the other side. It'll be more
Okay, then I misspoke. And technically this is row 6 of the pattern.
Row 6, yeah, because
of the knits.
Right. So the pattern repeat it's a little bit long because this is only like a 2 row repeat, but this is more repeats. And then you have the combination of the 2, which is why it's a little bit longer. But hopefully with these little tricks, it makes it so you don't really have to pay attention, read the pattern, or you should be able to figure out where you're going wrong or, which row you're on without too much issue. So I get back to the edge and I still have 3 knit stitches for that I-cord. All right, so now I'm going to turn my work.
Might want to move your hands just ever towards the end of the last row. Your hands were very towards the bottom of the screen. So
okay, sorry, I'll try and
no, you're good. That right there is perfect.
This is better. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So we need to do the I-cord. So I take the yarn to the front and just slip 3 stitches. All right. Now this is where I need to decide if I'm not exactly following my pattern, whether to knit or purl. And remember, I said most of the time you're going to be knitting, but now I see like a lonely little purl bump. See how it's just one little row of purl bumps. It's very lonely, so we need to give it another help. We're going to give it some help. So that means I'm going to purl right now. I'm going to purl to give this lonely.
Give it some friends.
Give it some friends, yes. So purl, and I'm just going to do one more row after this so I can show you what looks like the other time in the lace section and in the purl, this Quaker ribbing section.
Okay, and maybe we should take a short break and I can give away the gift.
Okay, yep, then we'll get into the magic of how they come together.
And that'll give you a minute to prepare.
Yes. All right, so. Okay, so, and I usually have a marker right here, so I would know if I'm on the wrong side. I should always
Pull your
purl
hands
these two
just
stitches.
slightly further up.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I usually have I tell you to place a marker right here, so you will see a marker there when you come to it. And that's because sometimes you'll be knitting in this section, and that marker just helps you stop knitting and realize that you need to purl.
So you'll always be purling the lace section on the wrong side.
Yep. So it's always just purled in the lace section. Yeah. And then when I get to my 3 I-cord edge stitches, I just slip them like with my needle tips nose to nose, I call it, or purlize, slip, slip, all 3 of them, and just let the yarn come, you know, around. All right. So then when we turn here, now we're in a row, say a row 4 or multiple of that. So the edge stitch gets knit. Okay, and now here's where I can tell that I have a lonely stitch. If I knit these 2 together, then it will be knitting this yarn over together with this stitch, and it would not keep the slant of my lace stitches going the right direction. So that's how I know I need to do a knit 1 and then knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, and then I have a lonely one here. So I knit that one before I have my 2 stitches of the stockinette kind of border here at the bottom. So then I knit those 2. And now I can look at this and see what's going on. So I see some knits, and remember that most of the time I'm going to be knitting. So I'm going to knit because I don't see a little lonely purl bump. So I don't need to purl. And that's the gist of the, the actual knitting. So now we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to, we're gonna bring this side up and Kitchener stitch the top, Kitchener stitch back here, and then we're gonna do an I-cord bind off for the thumb. So let's take a little break.
Okay, and one final tip I will give you in that little lace section is be sure that when you're working on the lace section that you're never doing more yarn overs than you are doing knit 2 togethers. You want to make sure that if you're doing 3 knit 2 togethers, you're doing 3 yarn overs. If you're doing 2 knit 2 togethers, you're only doing 2 because you don't want to increase your stitch count.
Exactly.
So you want to make sure that when you add one, you're taking one away, or when you take one away, you're adding one back, but not out of sync with each other, because otherwise you'll end up with extra stitches and the next row will not be helpful. Okay, so open your chat. We have 2 $20 gift cards tonight. My first question will be, what cast on did Suzanne demonstrate? I'll take number 5. Okay, let me just scroll back just a little bit. They go by really fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Valera Pate, you are the winner, and go ahead and message Zen Yarn Garden. She is here in the chat, and she will go ahead and get you your gift card. The second question, what has been your favorite project of the last 3 tutorials we've done?
Ooh.
No, we did Howard's Tam. We did the what was the two-way cowl?
Oh yeah, the double delight cowl.
1, 2. Okay, so I'm gonna take 5 again, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is Katrine Pate. Are you related? I'm just curious. That's me being very curious. Anyway, I wish you all a Merry Christmas. You can use those gift cards whenever you want. Oh, they are related. That's funny. You can use those gift cards whenever you want for anything on the website. They will be good on sale items as well. And go ahead and Katrine, just go ahead and message Zen Yarn Garden, and I'm going to turn it back to Suzanne so we can wrap up on these mitts.
Woohoo! That's funny. All right, so the kind of magic with these mitts is, oh, I'm not switched over to my camera yet. All right, is that we get to knit them flat, and then we do some fancy stitches here. We're going to do a Kitchener stitch at the top, And then we're going to kind of flip our needles around, do Kitchener stitch back this way, and then an I-cord bind off to make that like thumb loop here. So here's the ones that we were just working on. And what happens at the end, you end up with your yarn at this end. And then you just bring the knitting up and slide the needle in here. So you end up with both needle points ready to go. Slide your needles in, and then you Kitchener stitch. And you Kitchener stitch, you know, however many stitches it says. Actually, it's always going to be 13. And then you stop Kitchener stitching and switch it around. And I'm going to show you that. Don't worry, I am going to show you how to Kitchener stitch. But so what happens is
it says the top 11. So
top
not the
11.
13.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're good. I'm just sharing from the pattern.
Yep. So right now I've already I cut my yarn here and I Kitchener stitched 11 stitches. So then you wind up with your needles like this. And now you're saying, now what do I do? So I'm going to show you what to do now. We're going to kind of just flip things around, because what we want now is the tips of our needles to be over here so that we can Kitchener stitch this way and leave some live stitches here. And we're going to do I-cord bind off around these stitches to get the thumb hole. So I'm quickly going to shuffle these around. I just wanted to show you that because it's a little bit, you know, maybe confusing or different.
Well, and remember how at the beginning when she was having you cast on, she suggested you leave yourself a long tail there?
Yes.
That's because that's what you're going to use to Kitchener the bottom part of the mitt together.
Yes, I'm all about, you know, least weaving in as possible. So
yes.
I wanted to leave this yarn here so that, you know, you don't have to
cut another piece and have both ends to weave in. Mm-hmm.
And what happens is this, you might have your tail. Well, I do have my long tail here. You might have your slip knot still hanging out there. And in that case, you just take your slip knot out. And then you do not need that slip knot anymore. So then we can pull our needle in to these stitches. And now I'm going to show you how to Kitchener stitch. And I really like Kitchener stitching. I think a lot of people don't like it because you have to like remember it, but hopefully tonight I can teach you a trick that makes it a little easier and you don't have to you know, remember or look it up. All right, so I threaded my yarn onto my darning needle that I remembered today. Let's see. What's going on here? Looks like I do have some kind of weird extra stitch or something. But anyway, we're going to ignore that for now. So when you do Kitchener stitch, we need like a little bit of a setup row. And so what I do is I always pretend that I'm coming into the center and then doing a U-turn. So I come into the center and I do a U-turn. So the setup, I think I already did a setup or something, but anyway, so your setup can be going in and then coming out and leaving it on the needle. Okay, so now I'm really ready to start the Kitchener stitch, and don't worry about the first part. I'm going to explain it again. But so for Kitchener stitching, we're going to go into the center. That's knitwise, which you would see, and take it off the needle. But before I let go of my darning needle, I'm going to do a U-turn with the darning needle and come back and go purlwise through the next stitch. And now I'm going to pull. Okay, and now I can move to the back. And again, I'm going to come in, but this time when I'm coming into the back needle, I need to come in this direction. So that's more like I'm purling into that stitch, and I take that stitch off. But before I let go of the darning needle, I do a U-turn and I go knitwise and keep that stitch on the needle and then pull. All right, so now I'm moving just from the back needle to the front needle, and I can tell where I am because I see the yarn coming out of the back needle. So that must mean I need to go into the front needle or go to the front. So now I'm going to go in knitwise, go into the center of the needles and take this off, do a U-turn and come back out. All right, and then come over here, come into the center, take that off, do a U-turn and come back out. Come into the center and off, do a U-turn, come back out. And into the center, take it off, U-turn back out. And you can always like tighten up or loosen up your stitches in the end. So I pull tight, but I try not to over pull. Come back out. And I will show you what it looks like in a second. All right. Now we'll move on and I'll quickly show you the I-cord bind off, even though I should do a few more stitches to get there. See how it's just a little bit loose, but you can always just pull your stitches to tighten them up a little bit. And then you want it to look like a row of knitting. So your Kitchener stitch should look like about the same tension as your knitting, and it should just blend in and look about the same. All right, so next, you might have some yarn left, and this time you will have to either join another ball or use this tail for a little while. And now we're gonna do an I-cord. Like I said, I should Kitchener all the way up until I'm ready for my thumbs. But in the interest of time, I'm gonna show you it right now. So you're going to take this needle out here, and we're going to do an I-cord bind off around this direction. So for I-cord bind off, we will cast on 3 more stitches. In this case, I'm just gonna knit, do like a knit cast on, place it on 1, 2. Okay, so now I have these like 3 extra stitches hanging out. Those are going to become my I-cord that's going to travel around. So then for I-cord bind off, it's just knit 2 stitches and then knit 2 together through the back loop. And then we place those 3 stitches back onto the left needle. So knit 2 stitches, knit 2 together through the back loop, place them back. Knit 2 stitches, that's it, all the way around. You're going to do that. Knit 2 stitches, knit 2 together through the back loop, and then place them back. Now there will be a time where you have to kind of turn this corner. But it's not that hard. What happens is you'll pull your needle. Oh, sorry, I'm not even showing you. Your I-cord will come, of course, this is a giant thumb hole, but pretend that I had started up here and I did a little bit here. I'd have to like continue my I-cord around this way. But you just keep going. So you treat this, as you're binding off, you lose these stitches. And then you'll just keep going onto these stitches. And then when you get back to here, you can just bind off 3 stitches and graft them together with these. Excuse me. Or you can do, you can kind of do a half Kitchener stitch with the ones that are here, but it's only 3 stitches, so you can kind of just make it work. So then you end up with this nice I-cord edging around your thumb holes.
And if you have more questions on the I-cord edging, you can also look at, we did a tutorial Tuesday on bind off edges. And so we covered I-cord in greater detail. And she went through the whole process of picking up the stitches and doing the I-cord bind off.
Joining, yeah. So, and you end up with these nice little mitts. You can actually get 2, if you're like a little conservative with your yarn, you can get 2 pairs of mitts out of 1 skein of worsted. You can get 2 of the medium size, or definitely 2 of the small. You can also, like I said, you can modify them a lot. You can make them shorter if you just want little short mitts. But what's nice about them is they kind of fit nicely on your hands. And you know, the lace part is kind of over your knuckles and then thumb, and yeah, they go super fast. So I think they're kind of addictive. I have a lot here. I have like all different colors and sizes, and I've given them away a lot. But they're just kind of a fun little project to get something done, you know, maybe before Christmas if you're super ambitious, but maybe.
I was
later
going to
in
say
the
at this point, we're just a few days, so it might not be quite soon
yeah,
enough.
maybe not.
Does anyone have any questions? We can't run too much longer, but we can stay for another minute or two if you have a couple questions. Otherwise, I will say thank you so much for joining us for this year. We managed to fit in 39 tutorial Tuesdays, which was super fun for us. We're going to take a break. We're not doing one next week. We're also not doing one the first week in January. So we'll be coming back the second week in January. And we will have some new projects. We'll have some new skills. If you think of anything that you would like to see, you can always message any of us either on social media or at canwehelpyou@zenyarngarden.com, because we're always looking for ideas. Otherwise, we put our heads together and think. But you know, send us your ideas. And however you celebrate, have happy holidays and a happy and healthy new year.
Yay. So nice to see you guys.
Thanks. Good night.